DOJ prosecutors arguing in favor of that limited gag order on the former president, whereas Trump's legal team saying it would be an extraordinary move given that he has a debate coming up this week and lots of campaign events leading up to November's election. Now, this all stems back from some language that Trump had used after the FBI conducted that search warrant at Mar-a-Lago back in August of 2022. The former president made comments on social media this past May that the DOJ authorized the FBI to use deadly lethal force. Trump on that same day said in a fundraising email that Biden's DOJ was, quote, locked and loaded, ready to take me out and put my family in danger. But Smith's initial motion argues the language in the court-authorized search warrant was standard FBI procedure prohibiting use of deadly force unless an officer is under imminent danger or death or serious injury. Prosecutors say statements made by Trump about the FBI are significant, dangerous, and they pose a potential threat to FBI witnesses. But Trump's defense argued the language in the limited gag order is very vague. They insisted the statements made by Trump were directed at President Biden and not at law enforcement, adding that in their minds, it's political speech. Now, things got a little heated between Judge Cannon and DOJ prosecutor David Harbach. At one point, Judge Cannon reprimanded the prosecutor for his tone in court. She said her court required decorum and that if Harbach was unable to do that, one of his colleagues could take over. Harbach later apologized. Now, with no
corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking.
Hello, Peter. What's happening? We have sort of a problem here. Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on the Trump classified documents.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah. You see, we're putting the cover sheets on all Trump documents before they go out. Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here. I just, forgot.
Yeah. If you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great. And, I'll go ahead and make sure you get another copy of that memo. Okay?
Yeah, no, I have the memo. I've got it. It's right.
Hello, Phil.
I love Office Space. This is such a great comedy. If you haven't seen it, it is like a perfect encapsulation of the hellscape of corporate America, the fluorescently lit, cubicled hellscape of corporate America that was shoved upon every man, woman, and child in the 1990s, late 1990s through the early aughts, and we are breaking out of that cage. Ladies and gentlemen, we are breaking out and breaking the truth on this program, and we have some remarkable truth that has been admitted to by the federal government today. Breaking as of moments ago, the federal government has admitted to tampering with the evidence and creating a crime scene at Mar-a-Lago in order to rig the charges against Donald Trump. They admitted so in court. This is a very bad day for Joe Biden. And in the lead up to the debate this week, where Joe Biden may have to actually answer questions about all of this on stage. Wouldn't that be remarkable? What a world that we live in, where Donald Trump would be the person to actually ask Joe Biden a question about this. 100,000 reporters in Washington, D.C., but it will fall to Donald Trump to actually press the issue. We look forward to that. Today is Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. Special Counsel Jack Smith admits that the FBI tampered with and added sheets to classified documents before they threw them on the ground and staged a photograph in Mar-a-Lago. We'll look into it and into all of the new court reporting from the great Julie Kelly. Julian Assange is set free after reaching plea deal with the United States. We'll talk about why that is a very, very good thing and a strange and remarkable stroke of good news in a gray hellscape that we currently live in as we march towards tyranny. What does it actually mean? Are we seeing glimmers of light from around the globe? Is this globalist moment finally breaking and shattering? We'll talk about all of it with the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, who's suing the state of New York for going after Donald Trump and violating his civil rights. Finally, somebody actually has the cojones to do something about what's happening in our legal system today. Andrew Bailey joins the program live. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. So we have a wild couple of weeks ahead of us. We will be stacked with our blackout coffee in our cup. I don't know if that's what Jack Smith was drinking in our open cold. I'm not exactly certain, but he was drinking coffee. We assume, if it's on this show, that it's going to be blackout coffee. You can see that I have already downed mine for this morning. With the world in flames and Bidenomics, a complete and total disaster, don't let all of it ruin your day. At the very least, start your day with a cup of blackout coffee from the Patriots that make it right here in the great state of Florida. Family owned, 100% American, and 0% grift. Ladies and gentlemen, I drink it every single morning. It powers this show. You should take that as a ringing endorsement, given the fact that I have 3 children under the age of 4 years old. So 3 children, 3 and under. They make for very, very interesting evenings, nights, and mornings. And so sometimes we hit the studio a little tired, and Blackout Coffee keeps us going. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Use the coupon code Benny for 20% off your first order. blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Be awake, not woke. Be awake, ladies and gentlemen, to the depravity and the destruction of your federal government, as we have learned this morning that what we assumed, given the reporting, has now played out to be admitted to in court, that the FBI staged and rigged the documents inside of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago in order to look worse and in order to tamper with evidence, in order to frame Donald Trump for the crime. Now, again, we hearken back to comedy skits from Dave Chappelle in the late 90s, where the joke was that the 2 corrupt cops sprinkle a little bit of crack on the perpetrator, right? The black perpetrator gets knocked out by the cops in his own home, and they sprinkle crack on him so they can frame him for the arrest. That's the old Chappelle Show skit. And that's legitimately playing out right now in Donald Trump's home, as we now know that this photo is completely and totally staged. FBI brought props to stage infamous Trump crime scene photo. In wild reporting this morning from Julie Kelly, an absolute favorite of the show, who will be on this program later in the week, but she is in the courthouse this morning. This has been a story that we have been on top of for the better part of 2 years. We've done so many interviews on this and talked to so many experts on this, spoken with so many people that are intimately involved in federal prosecution when it comes to this story. And they are gobsmacked at the facts of this case. So here they are, ladies and gentlemen, in black and white, from the court. This morning, you will see that the special counsel, Jack Smith, admitting to the court that the FBI added the cover sheets to the alleged classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago, took photos of the evidence, and then did not return the evidence to the correct boxes that they were kept in, effectively tampering with and scattering the evidence beyond anybody's reasonable capacity to figure out where any of this stuff came from and whether it was actually planted inside of Mar-a-Lago. And what do we mean by that? Well, all of these boxes, every single one of them, went through the GSA, the Government Services Administration. And the Government Services Administration, according to the emails released, were demanding, screaming at Donald Trump to take these boxes back. So did the government actually send classified documents to Donald Trump's home as a precursor for this raid? Was this entire thing a setup? These are questions. These are like very simple questions that you have to ask. Now, there's nuance there, but based on the emails that have been released by this court, these documents were held by the government, and it was the government who was demanding in email, like, Trump, you got to take these documents. You got to take them. Got to take them. Got to take them. Got to take them. Well, where's he going to put them? A famous story about Barack Obama was that were so many documents that were created, of course, during his time as president, that Barack Obama bought one of those giant storage units, and it was located right next to a garbage facility and a McDonald's, a garbage processing facility and a McDonald's in Chicago. So that's where Barack Obama's classified documents were stored. I think you can make a pretty decent argument that inside of Mar-a-Lago, under the watchful eye of Secret Service, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months out of the year, that these documents were in a more secure location than Barack Obama's. But of course, we understand that the whole point of this was to set up Trump. Let's continue to read. This confirms my report, says Julie Kelly, from last month that the FBI doctored the evidence to produce stunt photos of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Let's read the actual court documents here, highlighted in yellow. As part of the processing of seized documents marked classified, ERT photographed the documents with appropriate cover sheets added by the FBI personnel next to the box in which they were located. The photographs attached in Exhibit 8. So the understanding was that this photograph, and let's get the full photograph on screen here. This photograph, the release of this photograph to the press, and why not take like a moment here to sort of tie in two concurrent stories. This photograph was released to the media, not in an official release, but in an unofficial release. This was reported by the New York Times and the Washington Post as, oh, wow, we gained access to some of the secret photographs that were taken at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago. This photograph would be considered classified because it is quite literally of classified information. Now, we have no idea if they have truthfully affixed the classified cover images to these documents. The photograph was taken in order to humiliate and frame Donald Trump by our federal government, and then leaked to the press. That's the purpose of this photograph. They took the documents. They wanted to give the impression that Donald Trump literally lived like a pig, like in squalor, with documents strewn all over his home, classified documents, and he's just like taking his Cheeto dust fingers and like covering the documents in Cheeto dust and eating his Big Macs and dripping special sauce all over these documents. This is the fake world that has been created, the caricature of Donald Trump that has been created by the left inside of left-wing media. It is a complete and total psyop, but it's what the most broke brain cultists of the left actually think of Donald Trump. It's why they all sob in the middle of the street. They don't care about any of the actual trials. They've just been lied to for the better part of 10 years that Donald Trump is the most evil criminal to ever exist. According to Jake Tapper, who'll be moderating a debate, Donald Trump is literally Hitler. All right? According to the husband of Dana Bash, who will also be moderating the debate, Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. He was allegedly, Alex, can you hunt this down? Like, he was apparently the husband of Dana Bash was one of the 51 intel experts who did the dirty election rigging of 2020. Like, bona fide. There's plenty of things to like debate in 2020 that were crooked as hell. But here you can like just straight up make the official, locked in, empirical, bona fide case. Yes, they lied to us to rig an election. Yes, the intel experts lied to us. We now know this, based again on court filings. They lied. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dana Bash is married to one of those people. Dana Bash and Jake Tapper will get a chance to continue their characterization of Donald Trump on the debate stage this Thursday. Should that even be allowed? I'm not certain. I know that CNN is doing everything in their power to try and stop people, like shows like ours, from giving our own commentary and fact-checking to this important national event. And we'll talk about that more later. But they are desperate right now. They are in panic mode right now. And they're in panic mode because the facade, the caricature of what they've created of Donald Trump is beginning to break. It's all beginning to be destroyed. So, for instance, last week, 2 weeks ago, the FBI had to admit in court that Hunter Biden's laptop's completely real. They've known that since 2019, and that they have 18,000 pages of metadata of crimes of the Bidens that exist on that laptop. So there's one lie, completely destroyed. Here's another lie, completely destroyed. That Donald Trump was just like living like a slob with classified documents everywhere. In fact, it was the government that was setting him up. We now know this. This has been something that we have been reporting on in real time. Mike Davis saying this morning, this is going to be a very, very bad day for Joe Biden. The Biden Justice Department raided their boss's political enemy. They turned off the security cameras. They concocted evidence that they immediately released to turn public opinion against Trump, and even filed with the court. This is a huge problem for Joe Biden and his angry little midget prosecutors, Jay Bratt being the one who's in charge of this case. Now, we want to stop and take a quick moment here to talk about Julian Assange, because the parallels are just too perfect. A reminder that Julian Assange has spent the better part of the last 15 years in maximum security prison based on the same forces that released the Trump photos, the classified information from the Trump raid. They released those photos to the media, and the media then vomits out classified information to the public. Those photos were classified. Those photos weren't taken for public release. Those photos were leaked. Remember all the headlines, like the New York Times has acquired photographs. That's because people in Merrick Garland's office, with their pudgy little fingers, grab the photos and run them as fast as possible. They're on fire. They got on the fastest train, the fastest government-funded G5, to fly directly into the New York Times office and hand them the photographs. This is the publication of classified information. Which of the New York Times editors will be spending the next 15 years on the run from the American government? And in fact, the New York Times and the Washington Post and the apparatchiks of the regime publish classified information 20 times a day that they are directly handed by the Blob. The Blob, the lovingly coined Mike Benn's name for our greater intel apparatus in this country, an espionage apparatus run through the Justice Department, State Department, and all of their Blob entities. Those people leak classified information 20 times a day. As long as it'll hurt Trump, or if it'll hurt another state actor, or if it'll hurt if it'll hurt an enemy of the regime, they'll leak like that. Everything gets immediately vomited out onto the pages of the New York Times. You call that journalism. Now, Julian Assange, let's put up the Julian Assange news here, skipping very quickly to the story, because it's worth creating the hard parallels here. Julian Assange spent the last 15 years, better part of 15 years, on the run from American authorities for doing the exact same thing. The only problem was that Julian Assange released information that embarrassed the ruling class in Washington. He didn't release information that hurt Donald Trump. That's 100% permissible. If that classified information, if the classified information hurts, smears, or slanders Donald Trump, then we can immediately release it. Give it to the biggest publication that you can possibly run it with. Even if that information is false, like Russiagate, immediately run it. As fast as possible, please. But if the information that you release hurts, let's say Hillary Clinton, some of the WikiLeaks email releases were the ones that, for instance, proved that CNN gave the answers in questions in advance to Hillary Clinton's campaign. You can see it directly. It got Debbie Wasserman Schultz fired because it proved that the DNC campaign was rigged in 2016. The candidate should have been Bernie Sanders by every right and measure. Julian Assange released some of the creepiest emails ever about spirit cooking parties with the Podestas. They're there in black and white. Some of the creepiest stuff from John Podesta's email, stuff that doesn't have any explanation. You can read it all. It was humiliating. They blamed Russia, obviously. But no, actually, it was just simple, what they call journalism when it comes to Donald Trump. The crime of Julian Assange was not that he released classified information. It was that he released information that embarrassed our elites and our ruling class that you're not allowed to make fun of. If you ever want to know who's truly in power, who are the people you're not allowed to embarrass in a society? Who are the people you're not allowed to humiliate? Hillary Clinton's one of them. The blob, the apparatus that protects Hillary Clinton, is another. And Julian Assange released that along with some really egregious and banal stuff about America and how America fights its wars. There's a pretty prescient clip, actually, of Julian Assange, I believe while he was still a free man, talking about the nature of war and the nature of the transnational war conglomerate. Let's get that loaded up. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Julian Assange free. This is Julian Assange free as of this day, as of this date. Julian Assange is going to apparently, and this is according to reports, this is going to happen tomorrow, after spending 1,900 days in maximum security prison, he's going to plea to a single charge, to time served. He's on a plane headed to the Mariana Islands right now, which is a American territory, and Julian Assange will be set free, and he'll be allowed to go home to Australia, something that Australia, I believe, has been fighting for quite a while. Will he face any charges in Australia? I do not know, but I can tell you as of the reporting right now, we're looking at a real remarkable moment in American history and in world history. Why is this happening? Well, let's load up the Trump clip from Tim Pool. We can show you possibly why it's happening, because Donald Trump said he's going to pardon Julian Assange, and Joe Biden's entire campaign is just like looking over, cheating, and copying Donald Trump's playbook. Here's the reason, though, that Julian Assange, see if this sounds familiar. Here's the reason Julian Assange was hunted like a dog by the most powerful intelligence agencies on planet Earth, because he was able to nail these people. He was able to truly and succinctly explain who's really running the world and how. Let's go.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
An endless war, not a successful war. What does that sound like? Does that seem familiar? Now, at the time of recording, you have to assume that was in the early aughts. The Ukraine war was just a twinkle in the eye of our globalist elites. But let's just run through the very simple, basic algorithm here. So, start a war. Let's just take Ukraine, okay? Because since this is just prescient right now. But Afghanistan, this applies to all wars that has happened over the last 3 or 4 decades, especially here in America. So start a war. Again, let's just take Ukraine. Use that war as a predicate to strip mine and use as tax cattle and tax slaves, you and I. We're the ones who are paying for it. Europe's not paying jack. Nobody else is paying anything. So they use that war and they hype it up. And they get a bunch of people like Mitch McConnell to support it, a bunch of morons to wear little Ukraine flags, which should immediately land you in Guantanamo if you wear any nation's flag other than the American flag. I don't care which nation it is. on the floor of the United States House of Representatives. How dare you? You use that to get the smooth brains on board. Oh, this is our great European, this is our great moment. This is just like World War II. But Ukraine are the Nazis. Shut up, shut up, shut up. But wasn't Ukraine on the side of the Nazis during World War II? Shut up, don't think too hard about it. Isn't there an Azov battalion that's a literal neo-Nazi battalion in Ukraine? Quiet! Didn't Zelensky stand up and applaud a literal SS, Waffen-SS surviving Nazi in Canada? Be quiet! Okay, all right, good. But if you fought on the side of the Germans against the Russians in World War II, wouldn't that make you cut the mic? Okay, and don't think too hard about it. So you take the money, so you use us as tax slaves. You create some new, like, great, grandiose, virtuous battle, right? And then you take all that money and you give it to Ukraine, right? Wrong, actually. Some of the money gets to Ukraine. That's a fact, okay? But when you got hundreds of billions of dollars on the line, a lot of that money stays right in D.C. and goes directly into the pockets of the people who are voting for those bills. And how does that happen? Well, it happens through stock incentives. It happens through lobbyists getting paid off and then immediately hiring some of the members of Congress or donating to the members of Congress. It happens through the buildup of the permanent war state in Washington. Again, Mitch McConnell will straight up say this, and he did so in an interview. The $100 billion that we spend on Ukraine, most of that goes directly to war profiteering here at home. And no, that's not a great thing. No, that's not an awesome thing. If you want to fund our ability to wage war, then be honest with the American taxpayers. Explain yourself to us. Don't hide it. And the reason why they're hiding it is because they're doing something illegal and wrong, and that is profiteering. They're profiteering off this, and they don't want you to know it, so they use the guise of the Russian invasion of Ukraine as a massive cover. Again, don't think too hard about it. And that's how this works. So it's permanent war. The goal is permanent war and forever war. The goal is never to win the war. The war is, of course, unwinnable. They know that, and everybody says that now. Everyone says that. And so this is what was exposed by Julian Assange. This mechanism. They did the same thing in Afghanistan. Look at how that turned out. Right? Like, wave goodbye to the $5 trillion we spent in Afghanistan. See ya. Now all those air bases are owned by the Chinese and the Taliban. Like, look at how quickly, look how much they care. They don't. They all got rich, and then they move along. And the final proof of this, if you're saying, Benny, this, I really cared about these wars, or I war Ukraine, this really matters to me. I can prove it to you. I can prove it to you in one single list. I'm sorry, boys. I'm calling for one or two things here. I can prove it to you in one single list. Get me the list of richest counties in America. I can prove it to you in one list. What are the richest counties in America? The richest places in all of America. Now, normally you'd look me in the eyeball, and in a sane world, in a world that wasn't operated by a satanic and demonic cabal of people that just wishes to destroy, okay, which is what these warmongers are. In a sane world, maybe one of the richest counties would be Detroit. Doesn't Detroit make things? Maybe Silicon Valley. Maybe Detroit's too old world for you, right? The automobile's been around 120 years. Maybe that's not the hottest item anymore. Maybe the hottest item should be in Silicon Valley. You'd say, oh, okay, Palo Alto. Don't they make things there? Isn't AI a big deal now? Isn't that pretty impressive? Don't they make an iPhone? They create things, right? Maybe you'd say Wall Street. Certainly around Wall Street, there's a lot of money invested, a lot of people moving money around. People get filthy rich doing that. At least they're maybe doing something or creating something of value. Perhaps you'd say, oh, the richest counties might be in Texas. There's oil there, right? People are digging into the ground, pulling something out, a natural resource. And the people who are doing that, that's hard work. And and those people are getting rich. You know, the ones on the very tippy top of the spindle, those guys are getting rich. Or Florida, you know, there's a lot going on in this state, a lot of value being created in this state, a lot of people getting really rich in this state, doing some stuff, you know, doing their own business, a ton of industries here, one of the fastest growing economies. You'd be wrong. You'd be wrong. You'll notice here that in the top 10, let's go top 10 here, that in the top 10 richest counties, but it gets even worse if you do the top 20, in the top 10 richest counties, so many of them are in Virginia and Maryland. Why would that be? Boy, oh boy, let's just stay on the top 10 here. Number 1 is Loudoun County, followed right behind by number 2, Falls Church. Holy smokes. What is created in Loudoun County in Falls Church, Virginia? Well, I'll tell you, war is created in those counties. These are the counties of the Pentagon. These are the counties of Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin. These are the counties that every single lobbyist and every single Pentagon official and every single lobbyist and every Pentagon official that becomes a lobbyist, this is where they live. War and money printing are the only monopolies that our government has. Our government has a monopoly on violence, actually, which is really the best way to think about your government. An organized cartel that has a monopoly on violence. They need to kill you. Remember, they raided Donald Trump's home with a kill order. They just kill him. Kill Secret Service agents. Donald Trump tries to stop him, kill him. That they had the order to do that. They were given the order by all these guys. This alone can show you that Julian Assange was right and that we are right, that all war is simply money laundering. And this shows you that the money doesn't make it to Ukraine. It makes it here. These people create nothing. Go drive there. Go live there. I did for 15 years. I know a bunch of people that live in these counties. I can tell you exactly what those people do. Now, these counties in California, this kind of makes sense. You may not like it. I don't particularly like it. I don't think these are the best people, but at least they're creating something. This tech sector, they're creating devices. I use them every single day. It's how we broadcast the show. At least there's like a physical value to what's being created. I can hold it in my hand. I can hold in my hand what's being created in those counties, so it kind of makes sense. Just like I can drive a car from Detroit. So it kind of makes sense to me. But then, like, look at this, Fairfax County, Howard County, Maryland, another DC county, Arlington County, Arlington, Virginia, that's kind of, where's that? Oh, yeah, it's where the Pentagon is. Look at these counties, incredible. New York doesn't have a single county. Texas doesn't have a single county in there. Oh, the oil industry is they make so much money. Well, where the hell is the Texas county in the richest counties? There ain't one. You can see some financial services there, New York and Mexico. But then you go right back to Calvert County in Maryland. And then right there, Stratford County in Virginia. Closing out the top 20 counties are all counties around D.C. All of them. Probably 10 out of the top 20 counties, of the richest counties, are D.C. What does D.C. create? The only monopoly that they have, the only industry they have is money printing, and that money going to forever war and government obesity, government glut, government sloth. Large S. That's it. There's your proof. And Julian Assange walking free is a wonderful thing, because he was a man who exposed the reality here, the truth about all of this. Now, Donald Trump said he was going to liberate Julian Assange. He said so in an interview. I think we have the clip here. Here's Donald Trump saying Donald Trump says 2 weeks ago that he's going to free Assange, and then what happens? Here you go.
More big one. Will you pardon Julian Assange?
Well, I'm going to talk about that today, and we're going to give it very serious consideration. And we're going to have a couple of other things to say in the speech that I think you're going to love.
I've heard some rumors.
And you've gotten so much out of me, I should leave a little bit for the speech, don't you think?
Mr. President, it is an honor and a privilege.
Okay. Then he goes back and forth with Tim Pool about how great Tim Pool is. We love Tim Pool. We like Tim Pool a lot. So totally agree with Trump there. But Trump says, yeah, I would totally pardon Julian Assange. the reason that Donald Trump didn't do it in term one was because Mike Pompeo wanted to kill Julian Assange. Mike Pompeo like openly muled about why not just kill him. Hillary Clinton wanted to drone strike Julian Assange. That's how much these people, that's how much real journalism threatens these people. And it's why we do this show. And it's why we're like so unbelievably thankful for you. Because this is the greatest threat. The greatest threat is, in fact, these shows that actually expose the truth. Not what CNN's about to do on Thursday night, which I'm getting more and more black-pilled over what's about to happen on Thursday night. I worry that our president's walking into a trap. And this is how threatened they are. Here's Hillary Clinton just wants, let's just kill him. Hillary Clinton considered drone attack on Julian Assange. Like while he was in England? How? Like while he's in England, you're just going to drone attack him there in the UK? These people are unhinged. And the more you learn about them, the more willing they are to demonically cling to power, the more you sort of understand that they're capable of doing exactly what they just did to Donald Trump. You know, they drones, the government argued, I still can't believe it's real. The government argued in the hopefully good ruling that we'll get out of the Supreme Court this week for presidential immunity. The lispy soy latte of a lawyer that was presented by the DOJ argued that it's totally legal for the government to drone strike and kill American citizens. He made that argument. Kavanaugh said, well, hold up. And you can just you can hear the arguments, right? You can't see them. There's no cameras, but you can get the audio. The audio of the Supreme Court argument. Kavanaugh goes, didn't Barack Obama just like kill a bunch of Americans without a trial, including a 16-year-old? So he killed a minor American citizen with a drone strike. They just slaughtered him. His name was Anwar al-Awlaki. And so, like, could we try Barack Obama for murder? And the government lawyer says, no, we love that. We think that's great. We think that's super cool. Like when our government kills with drone strikes American citizens without trial, we think that's great. I think we actually have the clip here. It kind of actually shows you where, like, who your government is, right? And what they're capable of doing. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the actual clip of the government arguing that they're very excited to drone. If you're the next Julian Assange, they'd be thrilled to drone strike you.
How about President Obama's drone strikes?
So the Office of Legal Counsel looked at this very carefully and determined that, number one, the federal murder statute does apply to the executive branch. The president wasn't personally carrying out the strike, but the aiding and abetting laws are broad. And it determined that a public authority exception that's built into statutes and that applied particularly to the murder statute because it talks about unlawful killing did not apply to the drone strike. So this is actually the way that the system should function. The Department of Justice takes criminal law very seriously. It runs it through the analysis very carefully with established principles. It documents them, it explains them, and then the president can go forward in accordance with it. And there is no risk of prosecution for that course of activity.
Thank you for your...
So Mr. Attorney Bud Light for the federal government declaring that it's totally permissible for the government to just murder you via drone. Got it? You see the state of play here? So does this come as a shock to you now that the government planted evidence at Mar-a-Lago? Julie Kelly on our program just a week ago explaining that she had a hint. She thinks she knows. Of course, this morning we have now verified in the government documents. But here's Julie Kelly predicting this, ringing like a bell. How do they get away with not going to prison for this? How do they do it? We have a lot to cover. We have some other clips. We have some other tweets. But, like, we have all of your evidence lined up. So feel free to just talk. We have it all lined up for you. But, like, how do you stop from going to prison for this?
I don't know. And I'll tell you what, Benny, there's even more breaking news this morning since I posted that piece that you read. Thank you so much on Declassified Live, which is more filings and responses by Donald Trump and the defense team outlining This huge revelation filed Friday night by Jack Smith that admits that they've tampered with evidence, that they have misplaced evidence, it seems like. And of course, as I wrote, they brought these cover sheets to the Mar-a-Lago raid for the sole purpose, they say, as placeholders for the classified files that they found, but for the sole purpose also of creating that stunt photo of the crime scene to make it appear that that is how the documents were found in those boxes. That simply is just one more lie, misrepresentation, not just to the public, but to Judge Cannon as well.
So again, we've been like a dog with a bone on this story, and it is so great to be validated and to finally have in writing that the government did stage photos and plant evidence. Somebody who'd know a lot about that and how the government must proceed or not proceed, who should be going to prison for all of this, would be Akash Patel, who hopefully will be serving in a Trump term 2.0 in a law enforcement capacity. Former federal prosecutor Akash Patel telling us this.
Jack Smith has just been exposed by Judge Cannon of doing what? Lying to a federal court. These guys keep doing it. The judge just unsealed documents in the Jack Smith case down in Florida, which says the prosecutors themselves have admitted to tampering with evidence, to moving the very boxes from one location outside of D.C. to South Florida before they ever even charged Donald Trump. How in the world can you not be prosecuting and charging these constitutional gangsters that are at DOJ? And they learn it from the same place, the top down, the same AGs, the same DAGs, the same FBI directors who are cheering them on. I hope Judge Cannon, he's an actual fun legal thing that should actually be occurring. Judge Cannon should be implementing actual contempt proceedings against Jack Smith and the Department of Justice for lying to a federal judge and withholding evidence of exclusion and innocence from Donald Trump. Those contempt proceedings would be righteous, and I'd like to see those. Maybe we could put Jack Smith in prison.
Maybe we could put Jack Smith in prison, says Akash Patel. Ooh, baby. They don't want him to get power back. They really, really don't want Akash Patel to have power back, or somebody who has really done, I think, his best at wielding the gavel in Congress, which is Jim Jordan, who's, I'm going to be a little forgiving here. I know a lot of people are demanding, like, what's Congress doing? Yeah, he's at like a 1-seat majority. And so I think that Jim, who's a friend of the show, is doing his best. Jim Jordan is saying, no, this is planting evidence, clear and simple. They're planting evidence on a crime scene. It's illegal.
Yeah, the order of the documents seized was changed. That one sentence says it all. Most people would call that tampering with evidence. The physical documents didn't match up with the scanned documents. And here's the irony, Sean. This is Jack Smith mishandling the very documents that he's charging President Trump with mishandling. Go figure. I mean, that to me is the ultimate irony here. Not to mention, of course, the double standard. We had Robert Hur 6 weeks ago in front of our committee. Robert Hur said Joe Biden met the elements of the crime. He knowingly disclosed classified information. But he wasn't charged because he says he was a forgetful old man. And we also established motive. Robert Hur said on page 231 of his report, Joe Biden had strong motivations for ignoring classified procedures because he was writing a book for which he got paid $8 million. So he had an $8 million motive. He met the elements, but he doesn't get charged. President Trump does. And then Jack Smith mishandles the very documents. You can't make this stuff up.
You can't make it up. Somebody who has an eagle eye on all of this is Donald Trump's Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe. This is a man who did a great job, by the way, as DNI, and somebody who I hope returns to a second Trump administration. He's saying that obviously all of this should be dismissed, and perhaps the agents who mishandled this document should be charged. I wonder why they're going to do anything they can to keep these people from power.
He has a prosecutor, lead prosecutor in this case, Jay Bratt, who met with White House counsel and a representative of the National Archives several times in the weeks before Jack Smith was even appointed.
Wow.
Maria, this reeks of crossfire hurricane when the Obama-Biden administration fabricated evidence before the FISA court, lied to the court about it, to pursue Donald Trump, and now we're seeing it again in this classified documents case. The judge could dismiss this case at any point in time, Maria. I think the only reason that she hasn't is she wants to document this publicly so that the public can see just how this case is being prosecuted, how unfairly Donald Trump has been persecuted in this matter by Joe Biden's Department of Justice.
So, ladies and gentlemen, final take on all of this is that the former Deputy Assistant General, Attorney General under George W. Bush, John Yoo, says that not only should this case be thrown out, but that Jack Smith is unconstitutionally appointed. And this is a little bit strange. You don't see a bunch of these like Bush people coming out to defend Donald Trump. You almost never see that, and it tells you everything you need to know about George W. Bush and the entire Bush family. But no, when was the last time that George W. Bush released like 7 statements on George Floyd, but has said literally nothing to ever defend Donald Trump or help Donald Trump or show up for Donald Trump at all? What does that tell you, right? It tells you that we've been had. It tells you that there is a real Republican Party that is really America first, and there's a fake Republican Party that is like a little pillow put over our mouths at night to shut us up, right? They're all the same people. They're just trying to keep us complacent. Stupid, right? And yeah, I probably the most embarrassing thing that happened in my young adult life was my blind support of George W. Bush and my thinking that maybe Julian Assange must be a bad guy, right? It's incredible. The power of salvation and wisdom, right? It's incredible how you get older and you actually learn how the world works, and it shakes you out of your programming. And it's really important. It's what we try and do on this program. Nonetheless, this former Bush guy coming out and saying not only should there be criminal charges here for the government, but Jack Smith is unconstitutional. Jack Smith should never have been appointed. This is really an important point here. Go.
But the bigger issue, the more interesting one, which I could see Judge Cannon perhaps ruling on Trump's side, is a claim that Jack Smith, the special counsel's entire appointment, is illegal. The point is that to conduct an investigation like this, you have to be a principal officer under the Constitution, which means that the president nominated you and the Senate gave advice and consent. Here, Biden and Attorney General Garland are pretending Smith has independence, that he's of the level of a principal officer of the United States, like a cabinet officer, but he's not. He's actually something like an employee. And so that issue has never squarely been addressed by the Supreme Court. Judge Cannon could be the first judge to really hold on whether any of these special counsels are really legal. It's a long shot argument, but because there's no precedents, no past decisions by the Supreme Court on that issue, I could see Judge Cannon maybe suspending the trial while that issue gets all the way to the justices.
Ooh, man. Okay. So are we actually going to see some type of reckoning for the people who've been pushing all of this lawfare? Are we going to see it? Are we reaching a true turning point here in the country? Do these people finally tire? And will they finally retreat? And will our side actually have the cojones to fight back? To actually maybe land a blow? To maybe say, like, this is the line in the sand where we're not going to allow you to advance? Perhaps we'll even push back a little bit, make it hurt, use your weapons against you. Well, joining the program now, a man who's actually doing that, we are shocked to say, perhaps the only elected law enforcement official in the country who has the guts to do it. The Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, Andrew Bailey, joins the pro now. Mr. Attorney General, I would love to just sort of off the top here, because of the reporting out of Florida, get your thoughts on Jack Smith, legal special counsel or not, somebody who doctored evidence and planted evidence at a crime scene. Is that allowed?
It's absolutely not allowed. And I would say that there's a fine line between, misordering the evidence and manufacturing evidence. And if that line was crossed, then it's going to be time to prosecute the prosecutors. This is clearly a weaponized Department of Justice intent on a political attack against President Trump. They've deployed resources in the form of Matthew Colangelo, the formerly third-ranking official at Biden's crooked Department of Justice, to the trial court level prosecution to assist Alvin Bragg in New York to obtain a legally errant conviction in New York. They're doing the same thing in federal court in Florida. They're doing the same thing in Georgia. Each of these cases is replete with procedural and constitutional error. That's not accidental. It's because it was an illicit witch hunt prosecution from the beginning. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark, and it is clearly Biden's weaponization of government against President Trump. And if they can do it to President Trump, they can do it to all of us. They're so desperate to cling to power that they're going to undermine the rule of law, destroy the Constitution, and ultimately destroy this country to do it. We have to fight back. We've got to find the tools at our disposal that we can mount a counteroffensive to defend this nation and protect the rule of law.
It seems like a bad joke, but it is something that was just admitted to, breaking as of this morning, 10 minutes before our show went live. Jack Smith admitting in court in black and white. We can put up the documents. Yeah, we brought the cover images to place on these documents. Yes, we threw the documents on the floor. Yes, we mixed up all the evidence. We have no idea where they go, where all the evidence goes. And more importantly, Your Honor, we staged all this. We staged it all for a photo that we then ended up leaking to the press in order to make our case. Forgive me, sir, but like, is this normal law enforcement practice? You're the head of you're the top law enforcement official of a large powerful American state. Would this be allowed in Missouri?
No, not at all. Look, there are sanctions for mishandling evidence. But again, I don't concede that this was accidental or negligent. This was intentional. This wasn't the mishandling of evidence. This is the manufacturing of evidence to make it look like he's more guilty, like he did something wrong, when in fact, they did something wrong. They violated his civil rights. And isn't the whole criminal case, isn't the whole investigation about mishandling documents? And then they come in and mishandle the documents and have to manufacture evidence to make it look like he did something wrong? There should be significant sanction, not only within the context of litigation, up to and including the dismissal of the charges as a sanction against the Department of Justice. But again, I think there needs to be a criminal referral for whoever had their hands and fingerprints on this to determine whether or not they violated the laws in their mishandling of the evidence and in their manufacturing of evidence to try to fabricate charges against the president.
Yeah, there's comedy skits written about this, but it does seem like one of the more egregious things that you can do. I don't see how the case goes forward. I guess I would like, before we move on to what you're doing in your state, your thoughts on this new hearing that's happening actually today about Jack Smith not being a proper special counsel. I'm sure you have some thoughts on this, but that's being heard right now today in court. ADMITS has filed that because Jack Smith was not a federal employee and not Senate confirmed by any measure, that he actually is not a legal special counsel. And this seems to be a very big question, obviously, if Jack Smith can even continue his work. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, our Constitution and federal law govern who has the legal authority to level federal charges in United States District Court. Jack Smith lacks that authority. There's no empowering authority that they can point to. You can't bootstrap his authority onto somebody else's. He's acting as an independent counsel. He has not been so appointed. And absent some check and balance, you've got a rogue prosecutor forming a rogue commission and manufacturing evidence against the former president of the United States in a SWAT-style raid at his private residence. This is what a third world banana republic starts to look like. And again, even people who out there may say, look, I'm not with President Trump on the issues. First of all, you're wrong. But even if that's where you are, surely we can all agree this isn't fair. This defies the protections that are built into our Constitution, which is intended to protect us from the government. Yet here, the government is being weaponized to go after an individual to achieve a political objective. It is a dark day in the history of our democratic republic.
So there are glimmers of light, however, and you've received some pretty impressive headlines over the last week for suing the state of New York. Right here from Fox News, Missouri Attorney General sues New York over unconstitutional lawfare against Trump. Time to restore the rule of law. So this is quite a move. Since we are not legal experts, perhaps you could explain it to us simply and clearly. How does this work when one state sues another?
Well, Missouri has a sovereign interest in participating on equal footing with other states in a national presidential election. When we entered this union together as states, we were co-equal, and yet the state of New York, through a rogue prosecutor and a collusive judiciary, is taking a presidential candidate off the campaign trail, tying them into court and ultimately into onerous sentencing provisions, whether it be a prison sentence, time in jail, community service, house arrest, whatever that looks like, and a gag order. Remember, the First Amendment protects not only a speaker's right to say things, but listeners' rights to hear. And Missourians' rights to participate in a presidential election and hear from their preferred candidate are being violated by the state of New York. Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution contemplates a process by which states could resolve differences. Missouri has a huge difference with the state of New York right now. We want to hear from President Trump. He needs to be on the campaign trail in the heat of a campaign in one of the most pivotal elections in this nation's history. And we can't let a rogue prosecutor in New York destroy our democratic process. That's why this case is so important. It's an original action at the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has adjudicated other differences between states in the past. Admittedly, those are typically about boundaries and water rights, but there's nothing to suggest that the founders didn't contemplate that one state might have a problem with another state trying to upend a presidential election.
So this is a very interesting line of attack here, because this is bumping this state issue, which they have used as a cover and a umbrella on this, into a federal issue. So every legal expert who's come on this show has been like, yeah, all right, the path to the federal courts is fraught, and it's going to take a while for any of this to reach the Supreme Court or to reach any federal court, since this was done in a dingy back office, rat-infested state court. But what you're saying is that because Donald Trump is running to be president of the United States and running for federal office, that he's depriving one of the 50 states, Missouri, of the right to speak. And so you are now affecting a federal issue. So that's the underlying argument here.
Absolutely. We know that the prosecution of President Trump in the illicit witch hunt prosecution in New York is replete with constitutional error. The problem is the normal judicial process to remedy that kind of issue is an individual appeal. Well, that takes 18 to 24 months. That appellate process is insufficient to redress the grievances of the electorate here in Missouri. We don't have time to wait for 18 to 24 months. The election will be over by then. We want to hear from President Trump now. And the fact that you've got a prosecutor and a judge in the state of New York who have taken him off the campaign trail, seek to further remove him from his ability to campaign as a chosen, of one of the major parties here in Missouri, as their chosen candidate, violates Missourians' rights to participate in the election. I would also say it is incredibly unconstitutional that the prosecutor in New York asked for a gag order. There's a strong presumption based on the First Amendment right to free speech against gag orders. And it's the defendant's right to a fair trial that the gag order is supposed to protect. Well, if the president wants to waive that right and speak to the voting public, he should be able to do so. And again, Missourians have a right to hear from him. The gag order was unconstitutional. The fact that they're trying to upend this election by removing President Trump from the campaign trail is unconstitutional. This is the tool. This is the mechanism the founders contemplated and codified in the United States Constitution for the state of Missouri to redress this grievance against New York.
You want to know, ladies and gentlemen, why we continue to have on the Attorney General of Missouri, and it is because he's like Michael Jordan in 1996 playing against a 6-and-under team. The wins, the points being scored in the state of Missouri. If other attorney generals behaved like this, then we'd book them on the show. But the state of Missouri is the show me state, and they're showing us how to actually fight back, and they continue to win. It's incredible. The scoreboard continues to be run up in an embarrassing manner. You won big yesterday, sir, on student loans. Yes, something that is, you want to talk about a violation. I got to tell you, this audience feels that violation when the credit and the value is stolen from our pocketbooks and given to people who didn't decided to not pay their bills And we all are forced to pay their bills for them so that Joe Biden can buy a vote. It is one of the most egregious violations that we feel, and you're actually winning on this issue.
Absolutely. We took Biden to task on this issue 1 year ago. 1 year ago this month, the United States Supreme Court ruled that President Biden had no legal authority to redistribute $500 billion in debt owed by individuals who took out student loans. There's no such thing as debt cancellation. Somebody pays it off. I'm not going to let Joe Biden saddle working Missouri families with Ivy League debt. But make no mistake about it, this was never about President Biden trying to help anyone. It's about him trying to buy votes. And he's again gone back with Plan B and tried to violate the law, violate the United States Constitution provision that gives Congress the power of the purse in his attempt to illegally buy votes. We filed suit. We asked for preliminary injunction. And yesterday afternoon, the court handed down a nationwide preliminary injunction stopping President Biden from saddling working Missouri families and working American families with Ivy League debt. This is a huge win for all of America because, again, it reinforces the legal principle that the president doesn't have authority to redistribute wealth. He doesn't have authority to spend money. Only Congress has that authority, and they have not granted him any authorization in law.
It's very interesting that you brought up Congress because something that went viral just a few days ago was a member of Congress staff for Marcy Kaptur, a Democrat staffer who apparently has a bunch of different residences. Who knows where they're getting their bills? Very strange story, but nonetheless, this Democrat staffer refused to pay off, even though they make $100,000 a year in Congress, which is its own problem, refused to pay off $8,000 in student loan debt, and Joe Biden just paid it off for him using our bank accounts as the working class American public. It was obviously created outrage online, and it sort of showed the internals of how this actually works, right? Like Democrat activists getting their bills paid by the rest of us to thank them for their fealty to Joe Biden and to buy their votes.
Yeah. Ivory tower elitists who don't want to have to work for a living. Look, this is personal for me. I paid for my college in blood, sweat, and tears and serviced the United States Army, deployed to Iraq twice, and then came home and went to law school in the post 9/11 GI Bill. And I have friends that didn't come home, that use the same process. And yet here you've got some spoiled brat making north of $90,000 a year, dining out every night, and wants the rest of us to pay off his bill. It's un-American. It's illegal. We're going to put a stop to it.
Yeah, it would have only, I think the math worked out that it would have only taken like $100 a month to have actually paid this off, and these are the people managing your federal budget. So it actually makes a lot. It actually makes a lot of sense. Here's the photo. Here we go. Can you describe, Mr. Attorney General, what's going on in this photo?
Yeah, that's me on the turret of my Bradley fighting vehicle out on patrol in the Nineveh province, Iraq, somewhere near the Syrian border. Hey, I've seen what a secure border looks like because I helped secure the border between Syria and Iraq in 2005. And I'm here to tell you, when you put tanks with guns and soldiers with weapons out there, the bad guys don't want to come across the border. And yet the border between Mexico and the United States under President Biden's watch is less secure than the border between Iraq and Syria in 2005. It's shameful. Again, you've got people who have served in this country who actually value our Constitution and love our country, and yet President Biden's going to turn it over to cartels and criminal aliens.
What a better country we had when the preponderance of people who served in our Congress or our electorate actually served their nation. There were some golden years actually created when people understood what service was, service to their country instead of service to themselves, which is what we see happening here, and it's destroying the country very, very quickly. It's quite shocking. A fighter, a true fighter. You can see photographic evidence, actually, of the Attorney General of Missouri fighting. We hope that your next lawsuit, sir, is suing over illegal criminal aliens voting in American elections, because that seems to be the way that they have it wired now, coming down to the wire. And the Biden team seems so confident in Joe Biden's victory in spite of every single poll showing total collapse. It does make you wonder what they have rewired behind the scenes. And every single new article is one of the welfare offices offering voting rights to criminal aliens who've come across the border. And the math just works out. The algorithm just kind of works out simply. That would maybe be the way that they're planning on running up the score in 2024.
Yeah, and I think that the two stories you covered first, the student loan story and the lawfare story, are really flip sides of the same coin. President Biden and the left can't win an argument. They can't win a fair election. They can't win anything on the merits. They've got to rig the system, silence opposing voices, take political opponents out of the equation, buy off votes, increase their share of the votes by allowing criminal aliens to vote in order to win. And that's what makes Americans upset, because this, again, it undermines the very principles upon which this country was founded. We're not going to let Joe Biden destroy the United States of America.
Yeah. Isn't that refreshing to hear? Isn't that refreshing to hear? It's why you got to go in and follow the great Attorney General of Missouri. Andrew Bailey is the man. He's the man who's actually fighting and actually racking up wins. When was the last time we won anything? When was the last time Republicans actually fought and won? And there's a man who knows how to do it. Make sure that he has the firepower that he needs. 155,000 Americans can't be wrong. Make sure that his voice is amplified and heard. And Godspeed, Mr. Attorney General. Keep racking up those wins.
Thank you, sir. Always appreciate getting to speak with you.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got some good news to get to and some important news to get to. Please make sure that some of the important things in your life are secure. Secure your future with my friends at Allegiance Gold. Make sure that you are investing wisely and correctly, and that you are somebody who is locked in regardless of what will come our way. I have a sinking suspicion that everything is a bubble right now. Don't come to me for don't come to me for like professional financial advice. It's not what I do for a living. But I have a sinking suspicion that everything is being propped up, much like the media is propping up Joe Biden, to push over the finish line and to keep from total collapse, and that the total collapse is coming. I truly, deeply believe that. I think there's a lot of evidence to indicate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, please invest in the only thing that has never collapsed, actually, which is the price of precious metals, something that is steady as a freight train, up, up, up. Ladies and gentlemen, you can convert your 401k account, your IRA. You can ensure that you have something that maintains real value into the future. Allegiance Gold is the only gold company that I trust. Go to protectwithbenny.com today. Call 844-66-BENNY right now. Get $5,000 in free silver with a qualifying purchase. Don't get fooled today. Protectwithbenny.com today. All right, so here we go, baby. We got some interesting. Bits and snippets of good news to carry you through your day as we head into debate day, which will be very, very interesting. And the Supreme Court will be also releasing decisions all throughout the rest of the week. So I believe, am I right, ALX? Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Expect Supreme Court decisions. Oh, man. If the Supreme Court releases the immunity decision or the J6 decision on Thursday, when these two guys are going to debate, like Elmo on fire gif, it's going to be just wild. ALX says Wednesday and Thursday for now. I believe they added Friday, but we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. We'll also see the meltdown from Morning Joe that Donald Trump is allowed to speak. Will they cut Donald Trump's mic during the debate? Oh, absolutely they will. They don't want Donald Trump to be able to speak. It's very interesting that the state of Missouri suing New York on the grounds that they're limiting Donald Trump's right to speak. What a fascinating and interesting case. So much interesting stuff happening out of Missouri. Morning Joe don't like that at all. They should have blackout coffee in their coffee mugs. Maybe they'd think differently. But they're very, very salty that Donald Trump gets a chance to speak for himself in this election. Morning Joe, of course, one of the main reasons why Donald Trump won in 2016. What was he? Donald Trump was on Morning Joe like 100 or more times in 2016. Joe and Mika went down to Donald Trump's election victory party. Isn't amazing? It is remarkable how quickly they can turn you in this business. It's why we're very happy to be 100% independent on this show. Here's Joe and Mika crying salty, salty tears into their coffee, not blackout coffee they're drinking, muling that Donald Trump has a right to speak. He's a salt that lib of the day. Get your salt shakers out and let's salt them, baby.
she even puts out there that the jury instructions can basically be whatever Donald Trump's view of the law should be for him, is just yet one other example. But just, again, something just, it's sort of a real life moment to look at on how disconnected she purposefully is from reality, is when she says that this man's threats can't impact other people's lives, when this man's threats and his words have led to Nancy Pelosi's husband being bludgeoned nearly to death in his home, has led to people melting pipe bombs. It's led to countless death threats, and people have had to get round-the-clock security. Yeah, I mean, what she's saying is a lie. She knows that what she's saying is a lie, and yet she says it anyway from a position of a federal bench, saying that Donald Trump's threats can't cause any violence or threats of violence. Yeah, I mean, read the newspapers. That's a lie on its face. In fact, you could go to another judge, probably in that same judicial district, and they would take judicial notice of the fact that Donald Trump's threats often lead to violence or threats of violence.
Oh, man, it's so easy to fact check these people. It's why they won't ever invite guys like me on the show. When we get a chance to actually debate libs, it's like shadow boxing. It's just so easy. It's so easy. You could you just destroy Joe Scarborough in in one fell swoop. Here we go. The guy who attacked, you say that Donald Trump's rhetoric led to the attack on Nancy Pelosi. Hold on. The guy who attacked Nancy Pelosi was a Democrat, a lifelong Democrat. He's an environmentalist who lived inside of an RV with a BLM and a Pride Progress flag stapled to it. He's a nudist drug abuser whose kids describe him as a far-left environmentalist. What do you mean, Donald Trump? This guy attacked Donald Trump in social media. Look, what do you mean this guy was radicalized by Donald Trump? What the hell is wrong with you? Do you know anything? You know nothing? What say you, sir, to those verifiable empirical facts? It's amazing the people who live in reality. I have to report to you sometimes news that I don't like, news I don't agree with, news that sucks. Right? Trump's house raided by FBI with a kill notice. They went through Melania and Barron Trump's bedroom. Go hunt for, I don't know, unmentionables and fidget spinners. That sucks to report that to you, but I don't lie to you about it. That's just Joe Scarborough wantonly lying to his audience. He's a liar. What does the Bible say about the tongue of lies? What do they say about lying? I will never lie to you. You might not like the news that we report sometimes. I don't. Sometimes it sucks. I'll never lie to you. That's just lying, right? It's just lying. That dude has the #1 rated morning show. That guy, they're so unimpressive. Man. And obviously they need something to keep pushing them through, as Joe Biden has refused to take a drug test. Donald Trump continues to demand one. Donald Trump on Truth Social from just a few hours ago. Drug test for crooked Joe Biden. I would also immediately agree to one. Donald Trump should just take one and bring the bill. Donald Trump should also take this as a free idea, okay? Take this as a free idea. We have the Trump boys on here. We have Trump campaign officials on here. We have Laura Trump on the show. Here's a free idea from your boy Benny. Print out the Her report, or a page of it, and just when Joe Biden says that you're a convicted felon, hold up the Her report and say, well, at least I could stand trial. That's what you need to do. Just take it out and hold it up and say, your own DOJ said that you have dementia and you can't stand trial. That's what your DOJ says. Also, you've been practicing standing here. Apparently, according to the reports, Joe Biden is practicing standing for 90 minutes. Well, I've I've just been standing for 90 minutes. I can check that showtime here. And I was standing for like 2 hours before. I did everything from a standing desk. Joe Biden's having to practice standing. Okay, here we go. Donald Trump demands a drug test. Laura Trump talking about what the debate's going to look like this week. Let's go, Laura.
We know that if Joe Biden comes out and is anything less than catatonic and basically doesn't fall off the stage, the mainstream media is going to applaud him for a smashing success. We all know that. So I don't know if they're giving him extra Red Bull, what's going to happen. I can tell you that I can pretty much guarantee Donald Trump would be more than happy to take a drug test for this debate. But I have a feeling the Biden team would probably push back and say they don't want that for whatever reason. This is the same mainstream media, Sean, by the way, who has tried to convince the American people with lie after lie that somehow gas prices are low, that life is affordable, that they can put food on the table at the same price they used to 4 years ago, that we have a secure southern border, that things are fine around the world, nothing to see here. And it's why the people of this country don't trust them. And I think the opportunity the American people are going to have on Thursday, despite the fact that we know it's 3-on-1 and despite all of the advantages they've tried to give to Joe Biden, is that Donald Trump is actually going to hold Joe Biden to account. Joe Biden has to answer for a horrific record for his really bad policies that have really harmed the American people. And so look for Donald Trump to call him out on that, because I doubt Dana Bash and I doubt Jake Tapper are going to do those things. But by the way, if you want a great video, I actually went on with Jake Tapper in 2020, and he cut me off when I tried to talk about Joe Biden's mental fitness. It was something even in 2020 they didn't want to talk about, and look where we are as a country right now as a result. Thursday will be very interesting. I don't know if they're giving him extra Red Bull or what the plan is, but we are all paying attention and we all have the popcorn ready.
Yeah, it's the Red Bull that comes in the teeny little baggies. That is dehydrated Red Bull down to the little white powder. Yeah, that's the kind of Red Bull they're going to give. Laura Trump there mentioning this unbelievable clip that resurfaced yesterday because we were going through a news cycle of Jake Tapper and how biased he is. And lo and behold, we have Laura Trump from 4 years ago on Jake Tapper's show, causing Jake Tapper to cry big, giant, rock salt tears, to panic, to whimper, to speak in that like voice that sounds like his voice is cracking and he's about to cry, right? And then to effectively kick Laura Trump off the show. Why? Because she said that Joe Biden has dementia. Oh, baby. This was an absolute banger, and I'm so glad it got resurfaced.
Every time he comes on stage or they turn to him, I'm like, Joe, can you get it out? Let's get the words out, Joe. You kind of feel bad for him.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
You have
to watch somebody on stage search for
that's so amazing.
questions
It's so amazing to me that
and try and figure out an answer.
a cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter.
Yeah,
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar. Plenty of people have diagnosed your father from afar, and I'm sure it offends you. Your father-in-law from afar. I'm sure it offends you. You don't have any standing to say.
I'm not diagnosing him. What I'm saying, Jake,
you just talked
is
about
that
a cognitive
we can
decline.
See that Joe Biden
I have one last
struggling
question for you, Laura. You can't
times on stage, and it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure.
So expect a lot of that. We covered yesterday with Trump's official press secretary for the campaign, Carolyn Leavitt, who's awesome, how Jake Tapper is a paid-for Democrat operative. And it's one thing to say that, and we can say that, I think, about a lot of people, but that would be just our speculation. It's easy with Jake Tapper because Jake Tapper got the start of Jake Tapper's career was being a little errand boy inside of Democrat politics and policies. He worked as a DNC errand boy. He worked for a Democrat, elected Democrat in Congress as a flack. His job was PR for the Democrats. This is not speculation. This is not some type of wild conspiracy theory. It's at the top of his Wikipedia. Then Jake Tapper went on to go work for radical Second Amendment restriction gun lobbyists for some of the biggest Democrat-run PR firms in all of D.C. And that creates the Democrat paid-for PR firm to journalist pipeline. And now, lo and behold, Jake Tapper, Democrat PR professional, trained and operated, gets a chance to cry on camera, like he just did there. Have you ever seen what a whimpering little soy? What a whimpering little soy boy! What a little soy latte of a man. Look at him. You see his like lip quivering. You're making fun of Joe Biden for his stutter. His little voice cracking. His like shivering. Oh my God, what the hell has happened to masculinity in this country? Just the evaporation of testosterone. Jake Tapper would probably like faint if a drop of testosterone was introduced into his bloodstream. He would be like, what is it? Because it's been so completely and totally milked this guy. This dude is cooked. So so degrading. Turn in your man card, bro. Joe Biden has a stutter. You actually believed that? Is there a conspiracy theory that Joe Biden hasn't wantonly believed and pushed on his show? How this man gets rewarded with a debate and Tucker Carlson, like in our lifetime? I don't know, man. In our lifetime, should we see a debate for Tucker Carlson? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The way it should go is that our side chooses a champion and their side chooses somebody. So fine, let Joy Reid moderate a debate. Be my guest. But we're going to put up Tucker Carlson. And they can sit there together. And Joy Reid can obviously come with her priors. And Tucker Carlson can come with his worldview that is well established. And let them ask questions. Wouldn't that be a better way to do a debate? Instead of like a bunch of these like frauds who are going to claim the patina of objectivity, yet in their soul, they are just ravenous, democratic PR operatives. Wouldn't that be better? It would be totally better. It's good to admit some truth here in society. Some truth in 2024. Biden campaign chairwoman concedes that Florida is unwinnable in 2024. Well, that's nice. I could have told you that on like my coffee break, but no. Okay, good. Glad to see some sensibility here. Poll: Trump leads, Biden garners nearly a quarter black support. Oh man, what is this? Former President Donald Trump edging out Joe Biden and garnering support from a quarter of black voters in a recent survey from CBS News YouGov. This is a CBS News poll? Wow. So even after the Manhattan jury's guilty verdict, Donald Trump still winning, but also exponentially winning the black vote and the youth vote. Boy, oh boy. Well, it's good to be right. It's good to have always been right on this program. And when we're wrong, we'll admit it to you. We don't have that problem. When we're wrong, we'll say, oh, okay, man, called that one wrong. But here, we've called this one correct. We just see the energy. We like feel the energy. Our superpowers, we're alive, we're awake, and we notice things. And this is a trend that we've been noticing. It's like no young person is down with Biden. They say down with Biden. And you see video after video after video of young people in urban environments and in the inner city saying like everything sucks now. And Joe Biden sucks. And he hasn't delivered for us. So we're voting Trump. And so now the polling has effectively shown it. Real earnings for African Americans are down 7%. African Americans are getting completely destroyed by this economy, along with Hispanics. Man, it makes you wonder. why the actual plan may certainly be to anybody who's applying for welfare, get them registered as a Democrat. I think that is quite literally the Hail Mary here. Hopefully the state of Missouri sues over that. And we'll be praying. We'll be praying from now until election night that is not the reason why the Biden campaign is so effusive in their, so demanding in their belief that Joe's going to win. I mean, it's very strange. In politics, you should always run like you're behind, right? You should always run like, man, we got a big uphill battle. Like even Reagan, when he was about to go win 49 states, was like, I got to earn every vote. I got to ask for every vote. Got to run like you're behind. And what we've seen from the Biden campaign is like this blind assumption that they're just going to win. You see it from Jill Biden. You see it from all of like his campaign flacks that have, obviously no honor and are willing to go on TV and talk about their love for Joe Biden. There's like this sort of like blind, glazed over eyeball declaration that Joe's going to win. Joe's going to win. Joe Biden will win. Joe Biden will win. Makes you wonder why they have what they have cooking up in the back. Really makes you wonder. And also, ladies and gentlemen, for those things that are unseen and those things that will require divine intervention, make sure you stay praying. That's why we have our verse of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Verse of the day from Ephesians today. Grace to all who love Jesus Christ with an undying love. You will have grace in your life, and we all need it. And we certainly need it in the lead up, ladies and gentlemen, some big events in this country. We need grace. Nobody's perfect. Me, chiefly, I count myself chiefly amongst that group of deeply imperfect people who need grace. But no country is perfect. No movement is perfect. No leader is perfect. No man is perfect, right? But call on Christ, and He'll hear you. And if you're a parent, you really deeply understand that. Up all night with your kids. It was the big, huge thunderstorm in Tampa yesterday, and my 2-year-old was very, very scared. She was crying because the thunder was shaking the house, right? And she calls for daddy, and she just needs to be helped. And that's us. There's big, scary things that happen that seem wildly out of our control and actually shakes the foundation of where we live. And you need to call on your Lord and Savior and the creator of the universe, somebody who is in charge and in control. And the greatest, maybe this has happened to you. If it has, you're a very lucky man. The greatest vote of confidence in you as a father is picking up your child who's like crying and scared and watching them just calm down and watching them be at peace. And my 2-year-old goes, okay. As I explain what thunder is and I explain that she's safe. Okay. And the shivering, the shaking, and the crying, it all stops. And that's where we need to be, like on a spiritual level. Like to know that God just has the victory and that it's our job to just like have that faith and to keep going, to keep marching. And I'll be marching right alongside you here at The Benny Show. It's your boy Benny. See ya.